Hi guys, welcome back to my channel where I've done a lot of different DIY projects. I've done home improvement stuff. We talk about real estate and finance, all that good stuff. And in this video, I want to talk about a concept called self-showing, self-guided tours when your house or rental property is on the market, and what goes into that. What are self-guided tours? Where did they come from? What are the pros and cons? And before we talk about it, if you're able to give me a like on the video, I would greatly appreciate it. Let's go talk about self-guided tours. Now, if you saw my last video, I worked really hard for like 4 weeks to get this property behind me ready to go and back on the market. We just got it listed on Zillow, and hopefully, fingers crossed that we'll get some great tenants very soon. And so this concept of self-guided tours, it's basically what you think it is. They put a lockbox on the door, which I'll show you, and then it receives a cellular signal when someone wants to tour. And then they can go pop in, check it out themselves. They can stay as long or as little as they want. They have, zero pressure from a real estate agent to, make a decision on the spot. So in a lot of regards, there's a lot of benefits, but we'll talk about the pros and cons in a second here. But I just want to explain what these self-guided showings do and kind of how they became more popular across the real estate market. So let's walk up to the house here, take a look at this lockbox. And again, I work with a property management company, but you do not have to do that to implement this solution yourself. But again, a very robust box here. And then you punch in the code once you get it, and then you're able to pop right inside and give the unit a tour. With the lockbox, there are some security features built in, which I'll talk about kind of in the pros section in just a second. But that's good to know, so that no one can just come in and tour your house randomly, and you have some information on that person. But where the self-guided tour really became popular is a couple years ago during COVID. And the mass situation being near somebody, a realtor breathing down your neck, these lockboxes became really popular so that people could just pop in and be able to tour at their leisure, without any health or safety concerns. So that's where it became really popular. And that practice now is really implemented with property management groups across the country, as well as individual landlords, smaller mom and pop shops. And, it seems to have been working really, really well. Just wanted to do a close-up on the box itself, and each one comes with a serial number so that the management company knows exactly what address it's associated with. It knows the code, and the prospective tenant can just come in and punch in the 4-digit code, hit enter, and then this will pop open and they can grab the key and then go ahead and tour the unit. Now let's talk about some pros and some cons regarding this whole self-guided tour concept. Let's start with pros, then we'll get into cons. And then at the end here, I want to explain my personal take, because I've done this a bunch of times now for 4+ years. And there's things that you have to consider as you look towards the goal line, which is getting a really great tenant in place that's going to care for your property and pay rent on time, all these things. So it's a lot to consider. So let's talk about pros here right now. So let's talk about the first and primary pro here, and it's regarding scheduling. So once that lockbox goes on the door, you effectively, as the owner, don't have to do anything other than go to the property every so often and check up on it, make sure that the unit is clean, the yard is picked up, things like that. There's no debris anywhere. But from a tenant's perspective, they get to come to the property and tour at their leisure. Maybe they work really early in the morning and they want to go check it out before work, or they want to hit it on the way back from work and check it out at night. So a lot of these lockboxes will come with a schedule, maybe at 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that is set by either you, the owner, or in conjunction with the management company. And there's kind of an operating hour on when they are allowed to go tour, so no one's coming to your property at 2 a.m. trying to get in. So that's a nice concept, is the ease of scheduling, both from the owner's perspective as well as from the tenant's perspective. Now, another pro, if you are a remote landlord or out of state, or maybe you're going on vacation and you want to get the unit up online as soon as possible, and you're not going to be there, available for showing. So this is a great option for people who are remote and they really just want to be kind of hands off. So again, that gives the tenant the ability to go and not have to interact with the owner or a real estate agent, just kind of do their own thing. So that's really handy if you are hands off and you just want the tenant to be able to tour at their leisure. So if you have the management company doing this for you, another pro is related to them basically handling everything. They're going to be the ones that are physically driving to your property, putting the lockbox on the door, programming it, making sure that their key is in there. And if there's questions that come in from prospective tenants, they're going to be handling those. They're going to be collecting information on the tenants and doing some follow-up outreach as well. If some time goes by and there's been a bunch of showings, but no one's decided to put in an application yet, so they can follow up with them and try to generate interest. So again, from the owner's perspective, you are basically hands off, and which is really, really nice. Now, from the financial side, this is another pro, that the lockbox and the whole touring situation, self-guided tours, that's going to be built in to the cost of your leasing agreement with your management company. It's not going to cost you anything, because that is part of them sourcing tenants for you. And the best part is you don't have to split a commission with a real estate agent, like a normal home sale. And there are real estate agents that do show rentals, and they'll demand a commission. So you don't have to pay, $500,000, whatever it might be, to get someone to tour. So again, it's self-guided and no one else is involved financially. So that's a really nice element. You're not going to be out of pocket anything other than, what the management company charges to place a tenant, which is likely built into their marketing effort. You're not going to have to pay additional commissions to a broker or real estate agent, which is nice. So the last pro that I want to talk about is regarding the information that we collect before somebody tours, one of these prospective renters. And so every management company basically has this set up with the lockbox. And so if you request a showing via Zillow or Trulia, Redfin, whatever the site that it's listed on, you have to upload a photo ID. A lot of times you have to put in your credit card information before you can get a code. And so you have to have some proof of identity. Is there ways around that? Probably, but it's unlikely that there's a lot of shysters out there that are, just touring homes for fun. So if there is damage for some reason or something goes missing within the home, you can, for the most part, track back the person that was last touring the house. So that's a really nice concept. And then beyond that, once that information is collected on that person, let's say you have a portfolio of 10 different properties and you come across a great prospective renter, their credit is great, their debt to income ratio is great, but that unit just got filled because they just were in second place. But let's say you have other units that are available. You can say, hey, would you be interested in living here? So you're actually kind of developing a little bit of a network and a Rolodex of prospective tenants that your management company can help place in your other units, which is nice. So you're getting this additional information and you get to follow up with them and see if they could be a good fit elsewhere, which is a nice pro. Okay, now let's flip over to the cons side. And there's a bunch of cons as well that I want to talk about. The biggest one for me personally, because I'm a salesman by trade, is there's no salesmanship or showmanship of your property when it comes to these self-guided tours. You do not have yourself as the owner. You do not have a real estate agent there that can answer basic questions and meet the people and shake their hands and look them in the eye and just basic human stuff. When you are going to tour a house and you get the key like we've been talking about, and then you pop in and it's just a dark house with no lights on, and you're just kind of looking in the bedrooms and seeing if the lights work, if the water works, stuff like that. That doesn't really do much for me, because if I'm going to rent a place or buy a place, I'm going to be talking to my real estate agent or the landlord. I'm going to say, hey, where are the great restaurants around here? I want to go try the food. Oh, I love these floors. When were they installed? Tell me about the appliances. Is the neighborhood safe? Basic stuff like that. So you're kind of just leaving it up to chance. Like yes, you can write in the listing description like all the nice stuff, and if they're really interested, the tenant can ask about the neighborhood and things like that to the management company, or the owner can help answer those things. But again, you want to have someone be comfortable in the place and develop a sense of calm and see themselves living there. So that's the number one con for me, is that there's no one to show them around and make them feel comfortable. Like, hey, do you see yourself living here? I'd love for you to live here. Let's get a lease in front of you. So it's kind of like they have to sell themselves on the property, and like, yes, if you make it beautiful, paint job, new floors, new appliances, it's in a great location, sometimes it's going to sell itself. But if you're in some remote area, down a winding road, the lockbox situation may not be for you, and you want someone to help tour and guide these prospective tenants so that they feel confident in their leasing decision. Now, the number two con that I want to talk about is regarding security. And so again, I just mentioned we get a lot of information on these people, but what if there's 20 showings in a week and you only go there once a week, and you have no idea what person damaged your property, or let's say someone came in and stole all your appliances, and that's just a headache. And that stuff is nearly impossible if there's a realtor that's coming with them and turning off the lights and locking the door, and basically in charge of that showing. So these self-guided tours give me a little bit of worry and anxiety because I don't know who's touring my house. And again, I don't know the quality of person that's coming through. But I'm trusting my management company to handle that for me. And again, in 4 years that I've been doing this, it's gone pretty well. I've never really had any issues. So in that regard, hopefully I can kind of put my mind at ease that there are not going to be security issues, but you never know. Now, another con is that you don't get to meet your tenants and you don't get to get a feel for them. You don't get to shake their hand, get a good, good or bad vibe. And some people honestly love that. They don't ever want to interact with their tenants. I really don't either. But, it's nice to see, hey, who's going to be living and caring for my property, or potentially not caring for my property? Who's this person going to be? Because if I go back to the property, or if, there's a, landscaper or a, plumber that comes, how are they going to interact with that person? So it's, again, a very hands-off approach, and you really don't have a sense of who that person is going to be. So you're trusting your management company that on the back end, their financials look good, their background check comes back clean, so that you can trust that this is going to be a great tenant for your property. One other con is related to just kind of little petty things like, someone tours your house and again, there's no one with them, so they leave all the lights on. They could leave the water running. They could turn on the air conditioning at full blast. And, me personally, I try to go over to the property once a week when it's on the market. But, is the air conditioning going to be running and costing me money, wearing down the appliance, and they're not even paying me rent yet? So that's something that causes me concern. So one of the ways that I'm actually going to solve that is by putting up a cellular camera that connects to AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile, and you just buy a data plan so that you can see, just even for law enforcement purposes, if someone comes to your property and does something bad, then you have a video record of that. Personally, I really just want to see if the lights are on so I can go over and shut them off, so we're not wasting energy and costing me money when there's nobody living there. The last con that I'll touch on is the potential for squatters. And I don't want to scare anybody, but there are really bad horror stories on YouTube, and especially if you live in California where like eviction is impossible. So if you get someone that happens to squat on your property and you like literally can't even get rid of them, even though they're legally not there, people can forge leases and say, hey, I live here now. And it's mind blowing that stuff happens. But so that's why I just mentioned I go over there once a week to make sure that the property is clean. There's, there's nothing going on that's sketchy. So, but again, there could be squatters even if you do have realtors, showing people, because they could somehow pop in, between showings and set up camp. Like, you never know. So that's one of my biggest fears, is that someone would, put in their information, forge their information, and then just, pretend that they start living there. And then what do I do in that situation to get rid of them? So probably not a large concern, if the doors are locked, but let's say somebody comes, doesn't lock up the door, properly, or they just forgot and they put the key back in the lockbox. The door is open. My property's downtown Phoenix in a urban area with 4 million people. So that's a concern to me, that there could be homeless people or something that are walking the street, see that the lights were left on, and they go look in the door, see that it's empty and it's vacant, and they just pop in and say, hey, I'm living here now. So I don't know how valid of a concern that is, but we have definitely seen that happen, in social media and on YouTube and things like that. So something to be aware of. So you've heard some pros and you've heard some cons, and now my personal take on the self-guided tour versus guided tour or lockbox situation debate. And my personal take is that I really want guided tours. And again, it's the salesmanship that seals the deal for these units. You are selling somebody a home, and having them tour by themselves works, but it's not ideal. And people want that comfortability and that sense of community and the confidence that, hey, I'm going to be living here for a year, answer some basic questions for me so that I can feel comfortable in, signing a lease, for a lot of money. Effectively, it could be anywhere from, $10,000 to $30,000 of their money per year, and they want to feel confident. So I would be willing to pay a realtor to show my prospective tenants. I'd probably be willing to pay like up to $1,000 per unit if I have a realtor that wants to show. But again, it's really hard to find a realtor that will do that. So until I own a community that has 100, 200, 300 units, that has a leasing center on site where you are paying $30, $40, $50,000 annually to a leasing agent, plus commissions to get these units leased for you, it's really just not feasible for me to do that. And I also have a 9-to-5 job, so I can't be driving downtown Phoenix all the time to be showing my unit. So I have to put my full faith and trust in my management company to do this for me. However, the things that are going to quell my anxiety are things like putting up cameras so that you can see the property, and that, things like that will bring you peace of mind, so that yes, there are people touring your property, all hours of the day potentially, you don't know who they are. However, if something goes wrong, you have eyeballs in the form of a camera on your property, and I would recommend maybe even putting up a couple cameras or some dummy cameras as well, so you have front yard, backyard, side yard, parking lot, so you just know, so there's no one parking in the lot when they're not supposed to be. But ultimately, again, there's benefits to both sides of the debate, but you'll have to make the decision that's right for you, and figure out if self-guided tours are going to work for your rental property. So I really hope you guys found this video valuable. If you're able to like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. A lot more DIY projects and home improvement, talking about finance and real estate stuff coming up in the future. So thanks again for your viewership. And until next time, we'll see you later.